Gabby Appleton. I'm the Chief Digital Product Officer at RX Global. Some of you, maybe quite a lot of you, will be wondering who on earth are RX Global and why are they here? So permit me a minute just to talk about that before I introduce you to our amazing panel. RX Global is one of the world's biggest exhibitions and trade show companies. We operate trade shows in all kinds of sectors, some that you will have heard of, like New York and London ComicCons, and others that you won't. TV and entertainment rights, aluminium smelting, aircraft interiors, you name it, we do it. Which makes us a very broad and diverse company. We need to get to know customers in a lot of different sectors and a lot of different countries. Our biggest countries are the UK, the US, France, China and Japan. So we're a truly global company, and we have visitors and exhibitors to our shows from literally every company in the world. Which speaks a bit to why we're here. Our customers are truly diverse. We do something that is quite difficult. We run a trade show that is on average 10 times bigger than the size of this one, on average every other day of the year. So we have to do big things, often stuff goes wrong a lot. So we need really diverse teams that reflect our customer base, that understand what is going on in different industries and different parts of the world. And we are at our best when we have diverse groups of people to contribute different types of problem solving and different points of view to helping us get this done. So we really believe in building the careers of all of the diverse people that operate in our company around the world, which is why we are excited to be part of this event today. And thank you for having us. Why did we choose this session? I expect most of you were in the session before lunch where we listened to three amazing entrepreneurs talking about how they are resilient and how they have faced challenges and navigated through tough things in our careers. And some of them mentioned, I think, one of the questions about how you do that in companies as well. Well, I think our three panelists here are amazing examples of people who've built successful careers in our company. And we thought it would be brilliant to have them come and talk about how they have built their careers, how they've navigated roadblocks and thought about planning. So with no further ado, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Des at the end.
Hi everyone. Great. I will be asking questions. Thank you. And I won't be raising my mic like this. My name is Des Massicott. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for RX. I've been with the organisation 10 years, but been working in cybersecurity about 30 years past mine.
Like I say, a long and successful career.
Thank you, Des. So my name is Jeffrey Asaribwama. I am the Director of Product Analytics, and it's all about data and analytics. And over the course of this talk, you hear how much I love it, which is weird from a guy from East London. Pass mic.
So I'm going to give my full name. I don't do this often. My full name is Milton MacArthur Montague II. I'm saying the full name because my dad's watching. He's the first. I am the Senior Director of Innovation and Development for the Americas, which is a really, really long title. It means I run the dev team in the US, Mexico, and Brazil for RX. And I've been here for 16 years.
Thank you guys. And hi to Milton's dad and all the people who are watching on streaming. That is awesome. I'm so happy. One more thing before I get into some questions for the panel. There is a QR code up there. If you want to ask questions, scan the QR code, stick them in the box. If you want to know what Des's DJ name is, maybe you have to ask in the chat because he wouldn't tell us earlier. Right, question one. Milton, I'm going to come to you first. You guys are all super successful in your careers. Can you share a personal or professional challenge that you have faced? And maybe tell us a bit about where your drive to succeed comes from in addressing those challenges.
I'll start with the easy one. My drive and the reason why I am the way I am is because I was born to a family of extroverts who surround themselves, of overachievers and extroverts. I'm the introvert that surrounds themselves with more overachievers. So I kind of had no choice. Also, growing up, I heard something that I'm pretty sure some of you might have heard as well. You're black, you have to do things twice as good as your counterparts. So I kind of, this is what it is because of that. The challenge is a really interesting one. It's a really one that is pivotal in my career. And there was one point in time I had a manager who was new to the company, didn't quite understand me, didn't quite understand my role. But on my first review with them, they opened the review by telling me that they're promoting one of my colleagues. Internally, I said, this is great, because the colleague is a great friend of mine, love him to death. But then I also was thinking, why are you telling me this in my review? So externally I said, fantastic. What about me? They didn't have an answer for me. Instead, they gave me some ridiculous answer about presence in meetings. Unbeknownst to them, I am an international Toastmaster who achieved their competent communicator in less than a year. See the overachievement family? So I had all the skills necessary to be present in meeting and have good presentations. Thankfully, I was connected with a coach who, after 2 meetings with a coach, said to me, Milton, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are phenomenal at what you do. The problem is you don't know how to play the game. And the coach, a black man, taught me how to play the game. And I used the tips that he taught me pretty much every day of my life. I can get to that.
Jeffrey.
Thank you. It's interesting that Milton talks about family. So my challenge is actually my dad. I'm an only child. He is an overachiever as well. He's like accountant, Ghanaian, so you have to do proper jobs. And he schooled me on heritage and family. So my granddad, who has 72 grandchildren, and I'm the only one who's named after him. He fought in the Second World War. Yeah. My dad's brother, youngest brother, went to the States, had nobody, washed cars in the morning, went to university, worked 2 jobs, and he's the top scientist or doctor in this field. Yeah. Loads of investments. Who's told me his story when I graduated university. So I actually have no excuse not to try and achieve high. So whenever I think, slow down, it's too hard, I think about my granddad, and I think about my uncle. So that's the thing that pushes me, and it continues to push me. Also for my kids, I have 3 kids, and also all the other 71 cousins that I have.
Oh my God. 71 cousins. I thought I came from a big Catholic family, but that's... Thank you, guys. Let me get to my next question. Okay. So we had a bit actually earlier about having a vision for your career, and that's really important to think about where you want to go. But it can also be really hard because it's quite daunting to think about that kind of thing. How do I start planning and charting next steps, short term and long term? I had a great boss who said to me once, well, Gabby, you need to think not just about the next job you want, but the one after that as well. And that was a piece of advice that has helped me. But I wonder if our panellists can talk a bit about what is your advice for mapping out a career shorter and longer term?
Yeah, I have OCD tendencies, so a whiteboard I would have. That's how I started out. So having a vision, understanding your vision is going to be a key thing. What do you want to do? You want to be an influencer, you want to work online, YouTube, whatever it is, have a vision. Put that vision up on the board. You ask them for practical steps. So from that, what I will do next is assign those SMART goals. First of all, do we know what SMART goals are? Some of you, good, because I'm going to be asking.
You're going to have to help us.
No. So, some of you answered. What's S in SMART? Specific. Thank you. So the first thing you want to do, you want to be specific about your vision and your goals. How are you going to achieve that? What are the steps you're going to take? Would it be certifications or training or working on a Saturday? What is M? Measure. So how are you going to measure yourself during this? So I need to get an A in this certification. I need to get an 8 out of 10 in this exam. These are the things that you need to look into as well. It's measurable. What's next? So, do not set yourself up. Look, we can achieve everything, okay? And I know if you want to be working on a rocket ship somewhere, that's up to you. But is it achievable? Is it something that you can attain? Is it something that's going to be doable? It's in your hands. I've got all of the experience. Yes, it's 30 years. I don't look it. But is it achievable? Next.
Realistic.
Okay, well, realistic, relevant. I would say to you, is it relevant for the things that you want to do? We're going to talk about pivoting soon. You have a path, this is what I would like to do. Oh, absolutely, I've got another chance of maybe pivoting and doing something else. So give yourself a chance. I started off, like most parents would say, this is your goal, this is what you want to do. And when you're young, you're going to be focusing in that space as well. But give yourself a chance to pivot. So look at those skills, look at those certifications that's going to be relevant for your goal to achieve that vision. And the last one. Okay, time bound. This one's really important. Can I be a CEO in 2 years? Maybe not. Let's be realistic here. But time bound. Set those goals and make sure that you can achieve it, you can attain it, but it's in a reasonable time for yourself as well. I've got all of the experience in this space, and I did the same thing. You start off really slowly, and you still think, what should I be doing? For me, it was a case of pivoting. It was a case of understanding what I am good at, and then allowing myself to actually get to a certain position. I'm one of the few Chief Information Security Officers in the UK. Okay? So it is achievable. You can do it. Pass the mic.
Jeffrey.
So he's talked about the theory. I'm going to talk about how I applied it in practice, right? I don't know him. I didn't know him when I was doing all of this. I'm that street kid from Leighton, East London. I don't know if any of you guys know about East London. So I'm that street kid where everything was more or less a fight, right? Leighton, Hackney, Walthamstow, Stratford, everything you have to kind of fight for it. But one thing that I absolutely love, and I learned this when I was at uni, is data and analytics. To most people, it's like this black box. But to me, it actually explains people, it explains human behavior. Because but you can actually explain why people do certain things by following what they do with their mobile phone, where they shop. So I absolutely love that. And I think there's a lot more that organizations can do with this. And this is my vision, how we use that to influence decision making. Starting out in that field, I was not in that position to start going to someone like Gabby or to Des to say how we should be using data. So how do I navigate myself to the position where I can actually influence those guys on how we should use data? I sat down, so this is the boring bit. I sat down and I looked at the roles where data is applicable. And I looked at the folks who need to be using data, so chief marketing officers, chief operating officers, CEOs. And how does my field as an analyst navigate towards that? So from the point of the tech, looking at how data tables work, to creating easy reports, to creating predictive models for ideas, and how we use that to translate that into marketing campaigns, how we translate that into strategy and testing and learning, how we use that to translate into new product ideas. So these were the things that I kind of navigated and always ensured that I stay in this field because I truly believe in this field. So for me, that's one thing I want you to take away. Believe in your skill set and believe in your vision and what you want it to do.
I might offer one additional reflection on that, and Jeffrey, I hope you don't mind. So Jeffrey interviewed for my team, and he works in my team at RX, and the number one reason I hired him is because he turned up in that interview and said, I have a vision for what we should be able to do with data in a big organisation, and I believe in putting data to work and do it. And I was like, this is the guy I want in my team. He's got a point of view. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that.
I always said, I love this, and I'll probably do it for free.
I wish he'd said that.
No.
All right. I don't know about you, but downstairs earlier, one of the entrepreneurs who was on the stage said, I have known since I was age 7 that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I thought, that is amazing. I take my hat off to those people who know what they want to do and what their end game is, from a very young age. I have to say, not all of us are like that. Some of us maybe, don't know, or maybe we have a go at something and it doesn't quite work out and we need to pivot, we need to choose something else. Maybe we just change our minds, and in a long career, that's okay. So I want you guys maybe to think back to the early stages of your career. Have your path or your ambitions changed since then? And how did you handle that change in priorities? And Milton, I'll come to you because I know you have a good story here.
Okay, buckle in. This is a journey. In college or university, as you'd say, I started off as a neuroscience major. Fundamental neural anatomy and drugs and behavior told me that that wasn't for me. I also was going to double major in religion and computer science. Again, sorry, overachiever. At the end, I stuck with a computer science degree, but after school, I taught for a number of years. So I taught middle school in my hometown. I realized after a couple of years that while I love kids, even the bad ones, I couldn't stand their parents. And that also wasn't the world for me. So I took a job as a temp at RX. I was a temp on the web team. I was then hired in like 3 months, full-time. I became senior manager, director. I became the head of our internal agency. I now, as I mentioned earlier, I lead the development team for the Americas. So there have been a lot of turns along my path. The thing that I've kind of learned throughout all of this, and the kind of big takeaway is, there's going to be a lot of things that you like, right? There's going to be a lot of things that you like. There's going to be a lot of things that you're good at. What I do now is I look for the nexus of the things that I like, the things that I'm good at, and where the needs of the business are. And that's where I try and make myself grow. That's how I direct myself.
Very cool. Des.
Cool one, thank you. Well, I've always been into computers, and I've always been into hacking. Yes, some of the ears will pick up like that. So I'm one of the old school hackers. I'm talking about the 1990s. A good hacker. So somebody that will take things apart, bit software or hardware, and think, wow, this is easy to me. There's no internet back then. I'm really showing my age, aren't I? Back then, the internet was small. But for me, I was taking apart games. I would reverse engineer games. I would reverse engineer Microsoft operating systems. So I would work for Microsoft for a little while. Yes, the operating systems, I'm going to show my age now, so please don't laugh, but you can Google it afterwards. So Windows 3.1, Windows 95. Anyway, so yes, I would actually take those operating systems apart, reverse engineer and see how it worked. And there was no teaching, there was no courses, but it's something that I did. So I actually slipped into IT when talking about pivoting. But for me, I've always worked in IT, but within a year of working in IT, I was spotted. Hey, can you look after this team? Can you be a manager of this team? Well, one of my first experiences, and we are an international organisation, plug for RX, there's plenty of opportunities here. It was Sony that reached out to me, and they said that there's an investigation in Japan, can you help us find a hacker? And I said, sure. I had no previous experience, but I knew about operating systems, I knew about hardware. You guys, some of you guys are gamers. And some of you in the audience today are working for me who have pivoted and perhaps do not have any experience in IT or security. But today is one of the leaders in IT and security for me. So it doesn't really matter what you're thinking that your role is today, you have an opportunity to pivot. What we look for from a security point of view, plug for security here, which is, I don't care what certifications you have or degree. If you're interested, you could work in Costa. If you have an interest and you think out of the box, and that's really important. If you think that you're different, if you go back home and you think, no one understands me. If you're an introvert, these are the people I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are diverse in mindset as well as colour. You can pivot. And you can reach out to me afterwards as well.
Alrighty, thank you guys. Now, one of the assets in navigating a roadblock and a twist and a long career is self-awareness. Both of you talked about knowing what you love, knowing what you're good at. Could you tell us a bit about, number one, what's your superpower? What are you really brilliant at? And maybe one area where you have to watch a bit or keep yourself in check a little bit. And Jeffrey, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, cool. Superpowers. So, 2004, growing up, grime kid, right? All those grime guys were beefing with each other. But as time goes on, they've all become part of that get-along crew. And I'm in that phase. My superpower, which was always part of me then, even though I was trying to be a tough guy, which I'm not, is actually how do we bring people together with a shared vision or with a shared idea and sharing that story. So my whole thing is about, I can talk about what we need to do, I can bring people together, and I can bring people along on that journey with us. And that's making complex things sound simple. It might not be simple, but sounding simple so that people can get behind it. So that's something I'm quite proud of, and that's something that I hope to never lose.
Yeah. And any areas that you maybe need to watch and check?
Of course, there's so many,
Something.
way too many. I try to not go too detail or too be in the details so that I don't scare people, because that is possible. Also not to go too long so that people lose focus. Yeah, and also I bring humour into things, but sometimes humour is not always needed.
Thank you. Milton, what's your superpower?
I've got a couple, but I think one that is my strongest is I have an adaptability to convince other people to do the thing that I want them to do and let them think that it's their idea. My team hates this. I can leave meetings and go, I got it. I know you think just like me. And then they'll just run without me. That's my superpower. In terms of an area where I need to work, I'm still working on is I'm not the best at self-advocacy. I will speak up for my team all the time. If they've done something phenomenal, I'll tell the world. And I have always expected my work to speak for me, and that's not always the case. And understanding that has been kind of the biggest eye-opener for me in my journey, is that I need to do more of telling the world that I'm awesome, and you should too.
Yeah. And not to put you on the spot, but was there any one thing that opened your eye to telling the world that you're awesome or the need to do that? Because it's hard, right? A lot of us don't feel good about promoting ourselves, or we feel a bit reticent about it. So I'm just wondering if there was a trigger for that.
A lot of that goes back to the overachieving family. Like I expect success, and success won't come to you unless people are aware of what you're doing. So I realized that when I wasn't moving as quickly as I wanted to, and as quickly as I expected, that I need to let more people know what I'm doing and what I'm responsible for.
Yeah, cool, thank you. Last question from me, and then we'd like to shift to some questions for you. So if you have one, use the QR code and stick it in and upvote questions that you like. Going to each of you, what is the one most important piece of advice that you have for people here about staying resilient and navigating twists and turns?
I think I like to use the term listen. So be you in the audience today, now, or listening to your parents or your friends. Listen. It goes in sometimes and it goes back out again. And sometimes we just need to pause, take the advice that's coming to you. And I want to say listen again. Because when it comes to pivoting, when it comes to am I doing the right thing and should I stay resilient, both in the office and out of the office, when you're with your friends, etc. But also listen to yourself. Sometimes I think when you reflect and when you do listen to that inner voice, is this the right path for me? Is this something that's going to be important to me? Is this something that's going to be important for my family as well? For me, my early years, unfortunately, I spent a lot of time in the books and really trying to upskill myself. Started to travel as well. And I think what's happened to me now, certainly I would say to you since COVID, is I am an introvert, seriously. And for me, this period has allowed me to reflect even more so, listening to myself and give something back. I've always wanted, I don't have any kids, so you guys are my kids today. But it was always important. I knew something was in me that I had to give something back to my community and to people that's important to us. So that's me.
Thank you. Jeffrey. You choose.
So I think the thing that you can take away, the thing that you should most think about, is that you are in your role for a reason. You have the skills that you are, they're yours. Own that, live that. Think of yourself as the best at what you do. Present yourself as the expert in that space. Live up to it. You heard the speaker earlier downstairs talk about imposter syndrome. You're there for a reason. There's no imposter syndrome here. Other people don't know stuff too. You're the best at what you do.
So for me, I'm going to do a little bit of Q&A here. Like, just raise your hands up. It's about the resilience part of it. If you think about your heroes or your figures that you aspire to be like, who has Nelson Mandela in that? Good. Who has Muhammad Ali in this? Good. Who has Harriet Tubman in this? Steve Biko? Tim Campbell? Des Massicott? Right. So for me, these are the people that, have inspired me, and they continue to help me to stay resilient. And one of the reasons that I was so happy when I joined RX, I turned up, I looked at who works here, and I saw this man. I'm like, okay, this is a good company. It's a company that I could grow into, right? And then I also think about where I want to get to, and I remember watching Tim Campbell on The Apprentice, having to balance that with Champions League Arsenal. And I had to, sometimes go watch Tim and root for him, sometimes watch Arsenal lose, right? So it's just those inspirational figures that helps me to stay resilient. And the reason why I keep staying resilient is we don't know who we're going to inspire. So all these positions that we have, we might be inspiring somebody that we don't know.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Right, we have some time for Q&A, I think. You're going to help me find the questions. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
Coming to the audience and tapping on the shoulder.
Okay, can you provide an example of a twist that turned out to be a positive turning point in your career? Something that maybe you thought was not so good to start with, that then really turned into a positive.
I have a story. It's the story regarding Japan again. I didn't know my skill set as a cyber security person until, again, it was the Sony episode that I mentioned. I was head of IT. I know things. Like I said, a little bit of an OCD thing. And they said, Des, can you actually do an investigation for us? Someone's done something bad, and we're looking to find out who's done this bad thing. And I said with absolute confidence, yeah, sure. I've got the answer for you. I can do it. Having confidence in yourself is very important. Can you do the job? If you can, sell yourself.
Yeah, I would say there's a complement to that, which is, in order to do that, you need to be in an environment where you can have a go, right? And have trust around
Not on my network.
All right, not on your network. But like choosing to work in a place where it's encouraged to take a bet, to have a go, and where you know that people around you will support that, even if it goes wrong, as long as you haven't bet the farm. I think that's a pretty important part of that, sort of turning negatives into positives.
What you mentioned as well is that coming into an organisation where you have figures around, and you inspired me actually. The African American network that to you exposed me to as well. So, when you do your research on an organisation, will I be able to fit in? Look at the organisations that's here today presenting. That's your entry point. If there are any jobs in there, get yourself in there.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Milton, I got a question for you. Earlier you said somebody taught you how to play the game. What is this game and how do you play it?
There's a whole lot of tips, and if you want to meet him, his name's Greg Brents. He's on LinkedIn. Look him up. But some of the tips he would tell me, they're just all about how you appear. So in a meeting room, I always raise my seat to the highest. No one ever told me that. I thought I knew knowing when I talk about meant something. No, it's wow, that guy's up pretty high. He must know his thing. You would be surprised. There's another thing called one-to-one finish your thought. You might, in Toastmasters, they taught us to look at the room as you're speaking. And Greg told me to do the exact opposite of that. So if I'm giving a presentation, number one, don't look at my don't look at my presentation when I'm speaking, but I look at one person in the audience and I finish my thought with that one person. And then when I move on to my next thought, I target another person and I have an individual conversation with that one person. So tips like this, there's ways to, Ray will appreciate this, who's in the audience, who did our insights training long ago. I've learned that I'm a blue personality type, which means I need some time to think before I give a response. He gave me tips on how to play back what people are saying, but instead not really care what's coming out of your mouth, but use that time to think about your response. So just a lot of things like that.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Another question that's had a lot of votes here. If you could go back in your career, what is one thing that you wish you had done differently?
Blue colour, all of us. We were thinking. Play it back. One thing that we'd have all done differently.
I tell you what I would have done differently is paid more attention to the tech and the data earlier on in my career. I started in marketing and I was quite good with making ads and art and graphics and all of that stuff, but I didn't really pay that much attention to the data and tech side of things earlier in my career, and I had to do a big pivot mid-career when I realised that that was becoming the future of many businesses. And to do that, I took a step down in the company. I went to work for a team and in a position that was a bit below the level that I had before. And that's not a regret at all that I did that. It has been unlocking of the last 10 years of my career. But certainly if I had my time again, I would do more of the data and tech stuff earlier, I think.
It's great that you mentioned data, because data guy here. So mine is actually being bolder much sooner. So I had ideas, and I didn't feel confident to share those ideas. And I didn't feel confident to just stand up and talk. I think now, some of those ideas would have earned some companies a lot of money and saved a lot of money as well. So that's some of the things I would have done differently. Yeah.
I think that's the same for all of us. Building the confidence early on in your career. I think sometimes you think that you go through this and not experienced yet. I don't have the confidence yet, and it goes so quickly. So I became the CISO in 2019. Do I honestly believe I would have been a CISO much earlier? Yes, now, absolutely. So have the confidence in those meetings. Ask the questions. When you are in the meeting, in a corporate world, I would say, when the meeting finishes, reach out to a couple of those influencers in the meeting. I think we talked about it beforehand, actually. And send them an email. Hi, my name is Des. I was just in your meeting. And show yourself. Get on that ladder, get on that confidence train much early. And you realise, when we talked about vision, you will attain those positions much early in your career. We've gone through all of the hard work, and now we're realising, you know what, could have done this about 10 years ago. Okay? So now you have that step, go for it.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple of questions about working at RX Global, which I'll try and combine into one. Either, why have you stayed at RX for so long, if you've been with us a long time, or what is your favourite thing about RX? What has kept you here?
This one's really easy for me. I stay here because I love, for a couple of reasons, I love our business model of bringing people together. We're essentially business enablers. We're game changers for people who have an idea, and I really love that. I can get behind that model. But more importantly, and more personally to me, RX provides me the opportunity to play. I consider my work play. I have an idea, I can play and make a thing, and that thing can provide value. So I've been here long enough because people keep allowing me to do stuff like that.
I'm the old guy. Why have I stayed in this industry stroke RX? RX, 10 years this year for me. And I think, again, it's taken some time for me to actually go through and be absolutely confident in my space. Why do I stay here? It's the people here, to be honest. The people they're everything. You realise when you come into work that you meet people in the corridors and you actually say hi to people and you have an interest. It's amazing. Sometimes you blinkered and you just sit at your desk and that's it. You're having conversations, real conversations. So for me, I'm blessed with people who are working for me, with me, as an organisation. It sounds like a plug, but it's not. We're here for a reason, 16 years and 10 years. So there's something. We're drawn to, I think it's mostly the people, not New York ComicCon, they fly to tomorrow. No. And obviously, like I said, we do a lot of travelling as well.
Yeah. Jeffrey?
So I'm the new guy. New guy in the sense of relatively new to these guys. So I've been here for just over 2 years. The thing that drew me to RX, comparing it to all the other companies I was interviewing for, most companies were looking to do the same in terms of just keep things going. But Gabby mentioned to me what we're trying to do in the world of digital and how data plays a part in that. So for somebody who has a vision, right, this helps in terms of how to make that as a play. Another part of actually why I'm very happy in RX is all the changes that we continue to make. It's on this, not a rocket, but it's on this, upward trajectory, if you imagine a chart. It's on that upward trajectory, and we are firmly part of that. So you see how your work plays in the things, well, my work plays in the things that we do. And I imagine it's the same for Milton and for Des, and I'm sure definitely for Gabby.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I've got 2 questions that I want to squeeze in before the end. Thank you to whoever asked this question. How do you get people to give you a chance to pivot? We talked about pivoting, but this person says, I've been trying to pivot, but people don't even give me a chance. And I can recognise that situation. Sometimes you feel hemmed in and unable to make that pivot. Any advice of what has worked for you in the pivots that you've made?
I'll talk from the outside person who came in and why I kind of pivoted. So I worked for a private bank many years ago, and it was very hard to pivot. You try to pivot, no, we need to do this, private banking. No, we need to have the reports in a certain way. No, we can't really rock the boat too much. And I just betted on myself. I handed in my notice, I had 3 months, and I betted on myself that I'll be able to find that something in those 3 months, and I'll actually take the time to find the right thing. So, yeah, don't allow yourself to feel scared to do these things. Be bold, just go for it. If it doesn't work out, people fail. You get back up.
I just want to just do it anyway. If you have an idea and if you have a thing that you think that's going to provide value, do it. If it provides value, then your fruits will speak for itself. And if it doesn't, oh well, you've lost nothing. Do it.
Yeah.
I did pivot. I worked for Rolls-Royce Security many years ago, and it wasn't for me. So with no job to go to, I just did it. I quit, concentrated on myself. I did a few more certifications, a few more courses, struggled to pay the mortgage, but I betted on myself. That's really important. Do you have the confidence? Do you have the skill set? Do you have the mindset to do so? I betted on myself. I struggled to pay my mortgage, but I betted on myself, and it worked out. Okay.
I would maybe add one thing. Just before the pandemic, I was working for the same wider organisation that owns RX, and in the middle of the pandemic, I took a phone call from somebody who said, we're looking for someone who can help us build digital software products for the UK Test and Trace organisation. And you will remember that there was a thing called the contact tracing app that used to ping people, and there was the pingdemic. They said, we need someone to come and run this. And I said, it sounds quite important, it sounds quite interesting, it sounds quite stressful. I don't really want to leave my current company because I really like it here, but I really would like to help. I'd like to help, build solutions that might help in the pandemic. I didn't know what to do. So I rang the most senior person I could think of in our company, took a huge deep breath and said, look, I don't want to leave, but this thing has come up. Is there any chance I could go and help NHS Test and Trace in the pandemic for, maybe 6 months? Would you take that risk and allow me to pivot for a bit? And at the time, that felt like an incredibly scary conversation. But just taking that deep breath and just doing it and trying to pitch it in a way that got the support of our company, because the NHS were actually one of our clients. You know, we were a science company, so we're trying to help in the pandemic. That, I think, aligning that to the company's goals and where the company might want to go, as well as to my goals in pivoting, helped me to sell that idea of a little bit of a career pivot for me. I think we are out of time. I want to thank our panelists for sharing their stories of ambition, aspiration, thank you.